March 13th, 2020, the day America stopped. Schools shut down, businesses closed, and travel was banned. I remember taking home all of my things that Friday because teachers told us there might not be any more school. I was so excited, I was pumped. But it's remarkable how quickly that excitement changed. As we all know, schools went virtual, millions lost their jobs, and the economy dropped like an anchor. You all know this guy. SARS-CoV-2 had single-handedly shut down America and most of the world at large, and we knew almost nothing about it. Humans always fear what they don't understand, and let's face it, we were thrown in the deep end with a cement block tied to our ankles and told to swim. On March 12th, my grandparents tested positive for COVID-19. Out of the 660,000 residents of Jefferson County, Alabama, T and Pop were the first two documented cases. A couple of days later, my dad tested positive for the virus as well, and I was scared. I wasn't necessarily enjoying the first days of turkey season or hanging out with my friends. No, I was stuck inside at home, confused and worried about what the future was going to hold. Even though I wasn't showing signs of illness, and those in my family who were sick weren't experiencing the worst that the virus has to offer, it was still terrifying. Because remember, at the time, no one knew what to expect. It could be as mild as a common cold or as dangerous as tuberculosis. There's a huge difference between a small cough and needing to be hooked up to respirators. And I was scared because my loved ones had this mysterious illness that no one fully understood. And we always fear what we don't understand. And here we are, 1 year later, some still living in that terrified feeling of confusion, some choosing to move past COVID and forget about it, others trying to sift through fact and fiction, grasping on any truth they can find. But by and large, there is a sense that things are turning a corner. We aren't done with the story of coronavirus by any means. People are still getting sick. People are still dying. But we are nearing the moment that feels like the end of a chapter. Cases of infection are down. Mandates are being lifted. People are getting vaccinated. Schools and businesses are reopening. And slowly but surely, the gears that govern our lives are beginning to turn again. So what now? How do we proceed from here? Do we keep our eyes on the horizon, shoot for the stars, forgetting all about COVID? Or do we need to stop and take some time and reflect? There's this line at the end of one of my favorite books, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. At the end of the book, after a nuclear bomb blows up the city, the leader of the Wanderers who lived outside the city remarks, "We're going to meet a lot of lonely people in the next week, and in the next month, and in the next year." And when they ask us what we're doing, we can say we're remembering. Come on now, let's go build a mirror factory and put out nothing but mirrors for the next year and all take a long look in them. We are going to meet a lot of lonely people in the next week, and in the next month, and in the next year, who will be carrying around a lot of trauma and pain from this year-long ordeal. According to the CDC, as of April 18th, 2021, 566,000 Americans are dead from COVID-19. Think of the loved ones we've lost. How many grandparents face the end of their lives without their loved ones next to them to comfort them? How many children were born that family couldn't hold? How many people lost their purpose, their jobs, their dreams? How many people worked their entire lives facing obstacles and adversity only to have their will broken by coronavirus? Imagine you're a store owner in 2019. You've worked your entire life at a demanding job that you don't really like, so you can do what you love and open a restaurant on Main Street. But then Main Street shuts down. You lose your restaurant, you lose your reputation, and you lose your money, the same money that's expected to put a meal on your child's dinner table. I know we're going to be in a rush to rebuild, fix things, get past this, lift mandates, eliminate social distancing, forget about COVID, but we cannot rush the areas in which we need time to process and to grieve. Don't lose sight of caring for others in your mad dash to get back to normal. Aside from caring for others, we need to remember the dead. The same leader of the Wanderers also said, but even when we had the books on hand a long time ago, we didn't use what we got out of them. We went right on insulting the dead spitting in the graves of all the poor ones who died before us. I don't want us to get to a place of normalcy at the expense of forgetting the dead. We need to remember this year, not run from it, not forget about it or pass it off as a pretty crappy year. We need to immortalize 2020 by reflecting on it, by looking in its face and saying, I don't fear you. Most therapists and counselors will almost always tell you that the first step to moving on is to acknowledge and reflect on your feelings rather than bottle them up and ignore them. And honestly, this is going to be the hardest part of getting back to normal. And I fear it's going to be the one that we move past the most. We always ignore the ugly side of life. And let's face it, we always forget, or at least try to forget, our painful experiences. You cut off all communication with an ex-lover, or you get rid of all photos and memories of a lost loved one to spare yourself the pain, but reflecting is essential. It's paramount to moving on. If we don't admit the ways in which we as individuals weren't our best selves this past year, we'll be haunted by it. Shame has a funny way of rearing its ugly head when we least expect it. And unless we accept those failures, our ghost will stay with us for the rest of our lives, hindering our growth and governing our decisions. To practice what I preach, I spent some time these past few months looking into the metaphorical mirror, and it was tough. One of the things I was forced to face is that the world is so much bigger than me. Do you know what I cared about on March 13th? We're going to be out of school till summer. We're not going to learn anything. This is awesome. I thought it was awesome. I didn't care about the small business owner that can barely afford to keep his restaurant alive. I didn't care about the nurses and doctors working hard on the front line to keep us safe, or the residents of nursing homes and fellow teachers and students with compromised immune systems, or anyone. I thought about the ways in which I wasn't doing my best to contribute to society's efforts to flatten the curve, and the ways I wasn't my best self this past year. Every time I decided to pull my mask just below my nose, or every time I didn't really use the hand sanitizer, I was increasing the chances of someone going through what could be 1,000,000 times worse than what my family went through. All of this I got by staring into that mirror and reflecting. So let's all build this mirror factory. We'll put out nothing but mirrors for the next year. And we should all take a long look in them, because the only way that we can truly move forward is by looking behind us and reflecting. Thank you.